Hey everybody, Tim here with today's episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Season 4, Episode 7, Little Green Men. Before I get too far into this episode, I want to give a special shout out to one of my favorite artists, and I guess you could kind of say friend, because I see her every year at Comic-Con, Jenny Parks, who does amazing artwork of cats and just geek culture in general. She has done Deadpool, the Joker, the Avengers, all sorts of stuff. I'm looking forward because I have an entire wall of her art. She's a fantastic artist. I see her every year at Emerald City and Rose City. She did the artwork behind me of the original series Star Trek and Doctor Who. I did have the Next Generation at one point, but when I moved, it got destroyed, and I have yet been able to replace it. But she's a fantastic artist. I reached out and asked her if she would mind if I had it kind of in the background because I'm doing Star Trek reviews and Doctor Who reviews, and she was like, sure, go ahead. So thank you to Jenny Parks for allowing me to show that off. So as for this episode, this is one of my favorite episodes, so I'm kind of glad to debut this at the same time. And I've begged her for years to do Deep Space Nine. So as I'm doing Deep Space Nine reviews, hopefully that also motivates her to do it. So, Little Green Men is a fantastic episode. I remember the first time I watched it, I also watched, the behind-the-scenes feature on the DVD for this, and somebody came up with a story of just, what if Quark and Odo go to New Mexico, Roswell, and they're like, do it. Just stop right there. Write the story. And it's a fantastic story. So, for the most part, it starts out, even the beginning, this whole episode is great, because they talk about, a Ferengi going to the Academy. At this point, it's Nog, and how he's trying to go to the Academy in San Francisco on Earth. And they're and Worf is a Ferengi at the Academy? That's just unwise. And O'Brien's people said the same thing about Klingons, and here you are, a lieutenant commander. And it's kind of funny because later on we see Nog as a commander and even a captain. So that's kind of, I like how it's prolific. And every Star Trek has kind of done that. We go from the original series where Klingons were the big bad, and then the Next Generation where Ferengis were kind of a big bad and the Borg are big bad. And then we get to Deep Space Nine, and Ferengis are everywhere. And then we get to Voyager, and the Borg is now part of the Federation. So it's just kind of interesting. They have a nice little shout out to the two-parter past tense where Nog is studying Earth culture, and he's like, doesn't this picture of Gabriel Bell kind of look like Cisco? Which that's the first time this is brought up. I think it gets brought up in the Trial and Tribulations episode. I can't remember. So anyways, Quark is given a ship from, I think it was his cousin, as a gift, and long story short, Rom and Nog end up getting thrown back in time to July 1947, which, as an American, everybody kind of here knows the stories of, Roswell, New Mexico, and Area 51, and all of the stories. And, I mean, there's not a lot to this episode. It's not a very deep episode. It's just kind of a sit back, relax, and just laugh type episode. Charles Napier, who makes an appearance as General Danning. Some of you who watched the original series, specifically the episode The Way to Eden, he was the hippie that kept singing and playing his guitar. So it's kind of interesting to watch him go from that hippie character to this hard-ass general. And then, at one point, the nurse talks about how, discovering aliens can, lead us to new worlds and new civilizations, which is a clear shout-out to the original series and the opening monologue and stuff. And then, of course, Odo ends up being there disguised as a dog. And at one point, he says something like, get that thing away from me, which is kind of a funny shout-out to the movie The Thing, which we previously saw an episode all about that. And then where you see the dog and he's, able to transform. So overall, I thought this was a great episode. Even you get to the end and they have to fly into an atomic bomb and that's what throws them back. There's no slingshotting around the sun. There's nothing like that. It's just an overall fun episode. And as dark and gritty as a series like Deep Space Nine is, this is the type of episode that you really enjoy because it's so episodic. It's so one and done, but it's so much fun. So for those who have seen this one, did you guys love this episode, or did you think that this episode broke the feeling of Deep Space Nine? Go ahead, let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys for all the YouTube subscriptions. Thank you guys for everything, and I will see you guys next time for another amazing episode, The Sword of Kahless.